Shane Gillis, live on stage.
I'm a bit of a history buff, which, by the way, that is early onset Republican.
His biggest tour ever is coming to Des Moines.
You're a white dude in your 20s and 30s, and you're like, I can't stop reading about World War II. It's coming, brother.
See Shane Gillis with his unmistakable comedic style. Live at Wells Fargo Arena Saturday, May 31st. Get tickets now at iowaeventcenter.com. For more, visit ShaneMGillis.com.
What's up? Happy Sunday. Welcome into the Channel Seed Studios. This is Bigger Than 12 on Iowa Everywhere. I'm Jake Brend in Des Moines, joined by Derek Duke, usually in Texas, now in Oklahoma City for the weekend. Derek, how you doing, my friend?
The traveling Channel Seed Studios here, doing good as always, man. And yeah, I'm in Oklahoma City for the weekend, for an extended long weekend, I guess I should say. Coming back Monday. Went to see Alan Jackson last night for a concert. Had a blast, and as you can tell, maybe had a too few many adult beverages, but I am still alive this morning. I got some coffee next to me that's helping me out. And it's cold as hell here. We were kind of talking about that before we started recording, and I'm not used to this. I'm not used to 10-degree weather, so this is still kind of new to me. But I know it's pretty cold up there in Des Moines too.
Alan Jackson's the guy who sings, "I'm just sitting out here watching air." Right? No, I'm kidding.
No,
I know it's Gary Allen. I know.
I know that's the running joke on Two Guys, but no, it's not. Alan. Unfortunately, Alan's health is definitely declining, so this is like his last, truly, I think his last farewell tour. But sorry, I can't speak this morning. But yeah, he still needs a little help. He can't quite stand up straight on his own, so he does need a little assistance from. Yeah, so if you want to see Alan Jackson, this is definitely the year to do it, folks.
It's early on this Sunday. I'm drinking some coffee out of my America's Team mug.
Oh, God.
I can't wait to get Coach Prime. Honestly, we're the Dallas Cowboys, so we could get any coach we want at this point, which is nice.
Yet Jerry's the one coaching the team behind the scenes anyways. It doesn't even matter who's named the head coach.
Yeah, well, we're the Dallas Cowboys, man. We can do whatever we want. I was going to ask you, are you a coffee guy? Have we had this talk on the show?
Yeah. I don't know if we've had it on the show, but yeah, I have to drink coffee every single morning, or else I might as well just stay in bed.
Just black?
I like a little cream and sugar. It depends how the coffee tastes. Like here, I just put a little cream in it sometimes. If it's a really bad coffee, then I will definitely doctor it up, but I try to just do cream when I can.
So I used to be, lattes, all that stuff, throw cream, throw sugar in it. And then this fall, I got a really, really bad caffeine addiction during football season. I was drinking. If my doctor's listening, I don't want to share the amount of caffeine that I was drinking. So I switched to mostly black. And then a couple weeks ago, I had to stop at a Starbucks to work for Wi-Fi. And I got, like an iced vanilla latte or something like that. I almost had to throw it away. I can only drink black coffee at this point. Like I can't put cream in it. I'm addicted to the taste of black coffee now, and I never thought I'd get to this point.
Are there people that actually go to Starbucks and order just regular coffee? Because I feel like if you do that, they would just pour it in the cup and just throw it right in your face and say, "Get the hell out of here." Like, we don't serve that. Like, do they even serve regular coffee anymore, or that's just like a foreign language to them?
I don't know, because I've never tried it. If I'm on the road and I got to stop for coffee, I'm never stopping at a coffee shop, at least chain-wise. I'll stop at a mom-and-pop coffee shop all day long. But if I'm on the road, just give me the gas station coffee. Some of those, we probably don't have time, but I could definitely rank all the gas station coffees. I could do, how there's wine tasting, I think I could do coffee tasting. Like I could tell you the difference between Quick Star and Casey's and Come and Go like that. But I can't tell you the difference between wine.
No, I'm definitely not a wine guy either. I don't know if I can do the coffee difference, to be honest with you, either, but for sure. I usually stay away from the big chains when it comes to coffee, except maybe like Dunkin'. I don't mind a Dunkin' coffee, but I'm definitely not going to Starbucks and ordering a damn coffee and then paying $20 for. They don't even say the sizes. They don't even have sizes at Starbucks. They try to put it in Italian. It's like you can't order a large or medium. It's got to be whatever the word is for it. So I just no. And I'm not going to pay $10 for a 10-ounce cup of coffee. It's not.
I do say small, medium, large, and those poor employees will just have to get over it. Well, coffee is powering this show right here on Iowa Everywhere, but nowhere near as much as WealthCharter Retirement Planning and Tax is powering Bigger Than 12. It is 25 years of WealthCharter, and they are celebrating. Tim Hawkins and his team are ready to help simplify the retirement planning, tax prep, and financial management process for you in 2025. With now 25 years experience, that's a quarter of a century, WealthCharter is ready to help you in any way they can in 2025. Tax season is not that far away. It's actually here. The best way that you can get ahead on your taxes is by doing it now. They've got tax prep, financial accounts, retirement prep, and we all know how overwhelming it can be. The team at WealthCharter's goal is to help simplify that process for you. And then some more nerdy stuff that they'll help you with, the inside baseball. There's a lot of changes coming to retirement accounts in 2025 as far as contribution limits, how they're increasing. Tim Hawkins and his great team over at WealthCharter, they're your guys to help simplify everything about that, make that process as simple as you can, and have your finances in check for the year. Thanks to WealthCharter for supporting this great program at Iowa Everywhere. We got a good show for you today. We're going to react to a big Saturday of college basketball in the Big 12. Going to talk maybe a little Coach Prime to Dallas, preview the national championship game in football, and make some picks for the week ahead. Of course, we'll have the Iowa trivia question and the random Big 12 player as well. We'll start with the biggest result from Saturday. Iowa State loses at West Virginia. And starting this week, I'm going to have a little headline for each loss. The headline for this game for me was ugly play, ugly loss. Derek, what do you make of the loss?
Sometimes you just have one of those nights where it's not your night, and that's what happened with Iowa State. I mean, they go 1 of 17 from 3 in that game. That's not going to happen often. And defensively, I thought they were fine. I thought they were okay. But the offense was just a major letdown in Morgantown. And again, if you make 20% of your three-pointers on Saturday instead of 5, then you probably win that game. But the other thing is, too, which I noticed, they had 4 assists all game long, which is not good. And on top of that, 14 turnovers. That's very uncharacteristic for this team. And let's be real here. At some point, this team was going to lose a game. I didn't know it was going to be this specific game. And they lost in a tough environment in Morgantown against a team that is going to make the NCAA tournament. And we kind of talked about this before the show, and I don't like blaming officiating, but it wasn't the greatest performance by the refs either. Definitely some inconsistencies there. Just a bad day at the office for the Cyclones, and I wouldn't worry too much about the loss on Saturday. Let's see how this team responds. So we'll kind of get into the more detail about it, but they lost. It's not going to be the end of the world for them. This team is not, in shambles or anything like that. Just a tough day at the office is how I took it.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Too many turnovers, not enough shots made, and not enough turnovers created. That's a losing formula for Iowa State when you make 1-3. As poor as Iowa State played, I do think West Virginia deserves a lot of credit too, because we've seen so many times, really since this moment last year, almost a full calendar year, where Iowa State plays a C- or D+ game up until the last 5 minutes. And then in the last 5 minutes, that's where Iowa State locks in, they win crunch time, they win the game. That did not happen yesterday. West Virginia flat out beat Iowa State down the stretch. TJ Otzelberger talked about that after the game. Or at the under 4 timeout, they talked about this is where we go in to get stops. And West Virginia picked up the intensity even more, and they deserve a ton of credit for that. I thought they had a really good game plan on defense. We'll talk more about Iowa State's offensive struggles without Milan Momcilovic. West Virginia really took advantage of that, bogged down the paint, made it really tough for Keyshawn Gilbert to get in the paint, made it really tough any time that Joshua Jefferson or Deshaun Jackson had a post touch. They were forcing Iowa State to beat them over the top, and they couldn't. And that ended up being a really good game plan. We'll talk Iowa State's problems in just a second. I also want to talk Javon Small. If we're giving credit to West Virginia, he was the best player on the court against a great defensive backcourt. And at this point, I would say he's the front runner for the Big 12 Player of the Year. I don't know how you could make the argument against it when it was kind of a two-horse race at this point between him and Curtis Jones. And Small was the best player on the court, especially in crunch time. Finished with 27 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. But what he did in that last 5 minutes was nuclear. And it won West Virginia a game, and they have 4 of the best wins now in college basketball. They've got a really impressive resume.
Yeah, he was certainly the best player on the floor on Saturday in Morgantown. You're right, he took over that game. I don't know if I'm going to say he's the clear, number one, a cut above everybody else just right now, but he's certainly in that conversation for Big 12 Player of the Year. He's averaging, I think, nearly 20 points per game, leading the Big 12 in scoring, shoots well from 3, good free throw shooter. There's a lot to like about Javon, and he's a leader for that West Virginia team, too, especially with the injuries that team has dealt with this season. Obviously, there's still a lot of basketball left, but Javon Small has to be in that conversation with a guy like Curtis Jones from Iowa State.
So we've got a 2-game sample size of Iowa State playing without Milan Momcilovic. And on the offensive side of the ball, it hasn't been great. I know the point total against KU ended up being pretty good. But outside of a nuclear first half from Curtis Jones, just taking over, there wasn't much that you could do to game plan around what Jones did in the first half against Kansas. But outside of that, it's been 3 really tough halves of offensive basketball. For me, you can talk offense all you want, but I think the fix to the Iowa State offensive issue happens on the defensive side of the ball. Iowa State only forced 9 turnovers yesterday and scored 6 points off of those turnovers. They only had 2 fast break points. That is not Iowa State basketball whatsoever. Even with Milan, they are probably an average half-court team, which is fine when you are maybe the best team in the country when it comes to fast break and scoring off of turnovers. But without Milan, they're a below-average half-court offense, at least until I see something else. So it all starts with forcing turnovers on the other side, turning those into points immediately, and that's how Iowa State will be able to adapt offensively until Milan's able to return.
Yeah, the easy answer obviously to me is just shoot the ball better from 3. That's easier said than done, but I don't think you're going to see this team shoot that poorly like they did on Saturday from behind the arc. I mean, this team just lost Milan a few days prior to this game, so it's going to take some time getting adjusted to it. Obviously, what we saw in the Kansas game was kind of the outlier there, so it was a great win for that day, but unfortunately for Saturday, it was a different story here. But what I will say is that this team is not full of great three-point shooters. As bad as Saturday was, don't expect some kind of miracle turnaround behind the arc either. Are they going to keep shooting 5% from 3? No, but they're not going to shoot 40% either. So this offense needs to find a better flow. Jake, you said this too just right now. Turn defense into offense. Forcing turnovers can help in a big way, and this team is capable of doing that. Unfortunately, we just didn't really see it on Saturday. But again, I think there's some things that can be fixed. But again, it's just been a few days, so I think this team will still get adjusted to it. But obviously, Saturday just wasn't the outcome that they wanted. But again, you play better defensively, I think it could definitely help you on the offensive end too.
Yeah, and again, that's where you give West Virginia a lot of credit, because it's not like Iowa State was lackadaisical on defense. They were sending traps. They were being aggressive, and West Virginia handled it really well. They were definitely prepared for the aggressive defense, and they just didn't give the ball up really, which is how you beat Iowa State. That's the formula. So hats off to Darren DeVries. That's an incredible coaching job. They've got wins over Gonzaga, Arizona, at Kansas, and Iowa State at home. The following two were without their best player, Tucker DeVries. Fantastic coaching job from a guy that I know pretty well over his years at Drake. Let's move on to Houston at UCF, a near upset. The headline for me in this one, Houston still clutch. This was their first close game of Big 12 play. First even relatively close game. They trailed by 8 at half, needed a game winner and got one from Javon Roberts. And they did it on a day where, similar to Iowa State, they really struggled from three, just 3 of 16. Got next to nothing out of their leading scorer, LJ Cryer. But still, they found a way to rally against a UCF team that I still don't know what to make of them. But it was nice to see Houston in a game at the end and how they responded, because that's kind of the drum I've been banging all year. Is I don't know what their end of game situation looks like without Jamal Shed, their go-to guy from a year ago, and it was bully ball from Javon Roberts, who had a great day.
Yeah, what a game. This was a fun one to watch between a really good Houston team and then a team we'll talk about here in a minute in UCF. But that was one of those grinded out type of road wins against a good teams like that find ways to win those kind of games. And I know the Big 12 doesn't have the overall depth that it used to, but you're still going to have to find ways to win tough games on the road. And I will say this about this Houston team. They're peaking right now. They are at probably their best right now. I think just what they've done overall, especially the last few weeks, I think this team has gotten a lot better over the last few weeks. And I'll be the first to admit I doubted the Cougars, I think, on the show last week, and I said I wasn't fully bought in yet, but I think I was wrong. I would not want to play this Houston team right now anywhere, especially in Houston, so I don't want to play that team at home. But again, I'm really impressed with the way Houston found a way to win that game, because that's how good teams do it.
Their bigs have impressed me this year. Roberts, of course, has taken a step up. He's been great during Big 12 play. Tugler, he only played 13 minutes yesterday, but he is an elite shot blocker, leads the conference. And Francis is a solid big off the bench, too. Their formula it's honestly a little similar to Iowa State, where you've got the two great guards in Cryer and Sharp, but the bigs are really what can separate them from a lot of other teams in the Big 12. UCF, I like their pieces. The freshman, I think it's pronounced Thiam. He's a really raw but talented big. But they were able to kind of take advantage of that yesterday. UCF right now is the most confusing team in the Big 12. A win at Texas Tech. You led Houston by 1 in the closing seconds, but also lost by 50 at home to Kansas. I truly don't know what to think of this team right now. They have so many different weapons that can be great on any given night. Jaden Ivey Curry's one of the best shooters in the conference. Keyshawn Hall scored 40 the other night against Arizona State. But outside of Darius Johnson, pretty much every single one of their players is inconsistent from night to night. And at the same time, they've got a couple wins, but they've shifted their identity in 1 year. Last year, they were bad on offense, really bad, but they were one of the best defensive teams in the conference. Right now, it's flipped. They're one of the best offensive teams in the conference, and they're probably the worst defensive team. So I still need to see more. I'm excited that I'll get to see them up close in person on Tuesday night, because I truly have no idea what to think of this team, and they're still missing their best player in Sellers from last year, so who knows what his status is. But the verdict is still out on UCF.
Yeah, to me, this was probably the toughest question on our rundown because I just don't know. It's you just don't know what you're going to get with this team. They aren't great, but they're not bad either. I think they're somewhere in the middle. When you look at their schedule here in Big 12 play, they beat Colorado, Arizona State, and Texas Tech. By far the best win of that bunch was Tech, but then they lose to Kansas, Arizona, Houston. So they pretty much beat the teams that they were kind of supposed to beat at this point and then lost against the teams that they should have. So I will say that Keyshawn Hall, another guy we need to start talking about more here. He's third in the Big 12 in scoring, nearly 17 points a game. You mentioned he dropped 40 on Arizona State last week, and UCF is third in the Big 12 in scoring, which is great. But the problem, like you mentioned, has been on defense. They're actually dead last in the conference in points given up per game. So if they're going to start beating these teams like Houston or Kansas or Arizona or an Iowa State team that you mentioned coming up, they're going to have to play a lot better defensively.
Well, and even with Hall, he was bad yesterday.
Yeah.
If he makes a couple free throws down the stretch, that game might not even come down to Houston having a final shot. So just really weird all around. They need some more consistency. Verdict's still out. They're definitely a bubble team, though. We'll see what happens with them.
For sure.
Two teams that I think are pretty squarely off the bubble. I think these are top 5 teams in the Big 12. Arizona at Texas Tech. It's another great game. The headline for me in this one is top and takeover for a marquee win. 20-16 for the big fella, 13 in the second half. Arizona cut it to 3 with 5 minutes left. Toppin scored 7 of Tech's last 11 points as Darian Williams went down and got dinged up. And along with that, the last 5 minutes, Toppin helped anchor the Tech defense that held Arizona scoreless. The biggest takeaway for me in this one, it's a big signature win for Texas Tech. I think they're one of the 5 best teams in the Big 12, but their resume up to this point hadn't really matched that. They didn't necessarily have an impressive win yet, but they had a lot of impressive showings. They finally get that marquee win, and I think it proves to me what my eyes showed me, and they're a really good team.
You say signature win. I say that's a statement win by Tech there that they have so desperately needed. This team has had some really close calls. They took Iowa State to the wire a week ago in overtime, and now they finally get one here. And you're right, it all starts with my guy here, Toppin. He's the straw that stirs the drink in Lubbock. 20 points on Saturday, and Chance McMillan, got to give a shout out to him as well. Had a nice game too. And how about Tech's defense? They held Arizona to 54 points, kept Caleb Love in check. And boy, did he have a bad day, by the way. And the Wildcats shot just 31% from the field, 16% from 3. That's not good. But I do have to give some credit to Texas Tech's defense. And I said it last week, if they can be more consistent there, then this team really has a chance to do something. And don't sleep on this Tech team. They're set up to make a run, I think. So come March, who knows what's going to happen with them. But yeah, when Toppin plays like that and just takes over a game, it's very, very impressive to me. And he's also, again, one of those guys that's going to be in the conversation for Big 12 Player of the Year.
Arizona's 5-0 start, very impressive. There's no doubt, especially with what they did to Baylor earlier in the week. But in this game, it was they kind of just lost their composure and lost their minds down the stretch. Don't get me wrong, Tech was playing really solid, good defense. But Arizona was chucking. They were chucking air balls. I'm not going to make any real takeaway from that. Off nights happen. We just saw it with Iowa State, like we were talking about. But with their non-conference play, when they lost a couple close games, again, this game was a 3-minute game with 5 minutes to go, and to not perform at all in crunch time, I'm not going to make any judgment from it yet, but it's on my radar to watch the more Arizona ends up in close games, because we are 8 days away from Iowa State at Arizona on Big Monday. I would imagine that game comes down to crunch time. We know typically how good Iowa State's been down the stretch. That could be a huge game on both sides for whoever wins that game. But nonetheless, if you would have told me Arizona was 5-1 coming out of the first 6-game stretch after their start to the season, It's about best case scenario.
For sure. I totally agree with that. It's also interesting to me to see some of these teams, how they perform on the road, because a lot of these teams look very different at home compared to on the road. So, again, this Big 12 may not have the depth, but these road environments are very, very tough to play in, and it's very interesting to me to see how some of these teams respond. And we'll see how Arizona responds, obviously, here coming up after really just a rough night in Lubbock. So, very, very good performance again by Tech. And again, that's a statement win for me for Texas Tech. Very impressed with that.
The Sunflower Showdown, K-State at KU. My headline is 18 straight as the gap widens. The score in this one was a lot closer than the game, in my opinion. And we can talk about KU's flaws, which we're going to do, but these programs are nowhere near each other, and it's never been more abundantly clear. The difference between a Bill Self and a Jerome Tang, and really every stretch of the main, could not be more apparent. And it's a get back win for KU as K-State has a lot more soul searching to do.
Yeah, we were talking about kind of Kansas. The headline for us is kind of what have they shown us here. For me, for Kansas, they're still as inconsistent as me on a Sunday morning after a long Saturday night out. I mean, look, this Kansas team, as I've said before, is still a work in progress. Offensively, they've been all out of sorts. It's been awkward, I think, to say the least. And Jake, you got your wish with KJ Adams. He was out against Kansas State, and Kansas offense looked really, really good.
Well, I didn't mean it like that. I
know.
I didn't want Adams to go to the bench because he got hurt, but
I know.
I get your point.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting to see how they performed without him on the floor. And you get Hunter Dickinson drops 25, Zeke Mayo 24. Those two guys are going to lead the way for this Kansas team. And maybe the answer is to give less minutes to a guy like KJ Adams when he returns. Kansas shot 55% on Saturday, 37% from three. And despite a lot of turnovers, Kansas still dominated that game. But what I will say is that I would take the Kansas State game with a grain of salt. I know the score looks impressive, the game looks impressive, but the Wildcats are just not a good team. But I will say that Kansas finally did put it all together on offense. Will they continue to show that and do that is kind of the question for me. It's still inconsistency overall, still a work in progress, but I did like what I saw on Saturday from the offense.
I still don't really trust anybody 100% of the time on offense outside of Mayo. Dickinson has the numbers. It's really hard to be a finesse big down the stretch. And don't get me wrong, Dickinson's a great player, but he just, I don't fear him. And honestly, sitting courtside Wednesday night for the Iowa State KU game, I typically have this fear factor of Kansas. And this might say more about Iowa State than it does Kansas, because I didn't feel that at all on Wednesday night. This KU roster is just not lethal offensively. You brought in Rylan Griffin from a Final Four team where he was a huge contributor, and he hasn't been a huge contributor. AJ Storr has done next to nothing. You mentioned KJ Adams. I think a player like Adams would be better coming in, playing Dickinson's bench minutes. Maybe staggering him. He plays 4 minutes with Dickinson, 4 minutes without, and he's that energy spark plug on defense. But otherwise, when him and Dickinson are both on the floor for the entire first half, it just really bogs things down. So that Kansas has a lot to figure out still, despite the impressive win. But like you said, I don't think you can take too much from beating a Jerome Tang team like that, which is who we're going to talk about, because if his seat isn't already warm, it's getting warm.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's about as hot as it can get right now. I mentioned last week on the program, but this Kansas State team, just in general, under Tang, is on a serious decline. Went from an Elite 8 appearance to an NIT appearance to now maybe a team that doesn't make the tournament. or even the NIT for that matter.
They're not making the tournament.
So yeah, Kansas State now drops to 1-5. It feels like there's just no hope in sight with this team unless a miracle happens. This team's going to finish in the bottom 5 of the Big 12 probably. And in a place like Kansas State with some rich basketball history, at least in my opinion, that's completely unacceptable. Tang, without a doubt, is on the hot seat. And I know plenty of Kansas State fans that are willing to get rid of him right now, if they could.
Yeah, the seat's hot. The problem, the buyout's $19 million if it's before April 30th of 2026.
Woof.
Which almost guarantees that he'll be back next season, I would think. And the problem, of course, lies in the actual coaching ability. It lies in maybe some of the press conference stuff. But at the same time, this entire last offseason, Tang was flirting with other jobs to get leverage for more money, for more NIL money, and he got that. We know the numbers that have been thrown around for what they paid this team. And you watch what he's done with an abundance of resources compared to what TJ Otzelberger has done with clearly not as many resources. The difference in talent, the difference in team construction, it is very, very apparent. And that's, I don't think that's going to get better. I don't think this is a bad luck type thing. If you would have told me last March that some team is going to pay Coleman Hawkins almost $2 million, which is the number that's been thrown out there, I don't care if it's K-State, Iowa State, or Houston, I'm going to say, really? That seems like a bad investment, and it's proven to be a bad investment. And that's nothing against Hawkins as a player. He's a fine player. He's not the star of a team, though. And speaking of Coleman Hawkins, we had an interesting exchange in the post-game press conference between him and Jerome Tang yesterday. I think Aiden's got the audio from this, and we'll let the listeners form their own opinion on it.
Spent 4 years at Illinois. You only have 1 year at K-State. The losses keep piling up. Like, what are your thoughts with what's left for you and the team the rest of the season?
You don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
Coach talks all the time about, fighting through adversity and manning up. And, it's my job to man up and persevere. I'm going to play out the season and try to win as many games as I can for this program. That's where my mindset is. I feel like we're right there to, shocking a lot of people. And I think, very soon, I think we're going to start winning basketball games. So I'm just going to persevere and I'm going to play hard regardless. So.
Video is courtesy of Landon Reinhardt at KSNT News in Topeka. I'll admit, so I saw the initial tweet with no video, and I thought that was a lot worse than the actual video. But it's still just odd. Everything that Tang does is odd. Hawkins knows that he doesn't have to answer a question. It just comes across as really weird when you're saying that in the middle of a press conference. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it's just different. Different's probably the best word.
It's all kind of weird for me. And Jerome Tang, to me, is also kind of a weird guy. I feel like they're a team with just all bark, no bite. And I feel like it's kind of the same way I feel about Tang at this point. He talks and talks a lot about different things, but at the end of the day, he's just not getting the job done there. Like, the results have to matter at some point. Again, I know you mentioned the buyout here. It's a lot of money. It is a lot of money. At some point, Kansas State might have to just swallow the tough pill here and just get through it. And I don't know if it's going to be this season. Maybe it's next season, but I'm just not too sure at this point.
There's such a great story 2 years ago at this very time. And this time last year, they were a top 25 team. Ever since he came to Hilton Coliseum, though, it has been an avalanche in the worst way possible. We got 3 games left. We're going to kind of fly through them just because not much significance within any of the games. Start Arizona Cincy. My headline for this one is Cincinnati. I'm still not sure. They went 2-0 this week in 2 games that they absolutely should have won, and they did, so credit to them. But their conference-only offense is still the worst in the league. I need to see them be more consistent on the offensive end and beat a team above their weight class.
Yeah, that was a much-needed win for Cincy. The Bearcats had 4 players in double digits, but it was all about the defense in that game. Arizona State had 14 turnovers on Saturday. That was the difference in the game for me. And now Arizona State's off to a 1-5 start in Big 12 play. I don't see them climbing out of that hole, but this was a nice and a much needed win for Cincinnati, who's now, I think they're 2-4 here in Big 12 play.
Yeah, the rough 0-4 start after that tough start to conference play. They got back on track, but they're going to need a few more marquee wins to get back on the bubble. I think right now they're probably in the next 4 out territory of the bubble, which means you've got some work to do. In Arizona State, they've been in a lot of games, haven't been able to close them out, but I don't mind their roster. That'll be a tough game for Iowa State next Saturday. BYU at Utah. I hope nobody went to sleep before this game. Holy war, holy crap. What a game. 8 lead changes. Get this. Utah led for 20 minutes and 24 seconds. BYU led for 19 minutes and 9 seconds. This was about as back and forth of a basketball game as you could have had. Ezra Asar scored 26 points, his second 20-point performance in 3 games. And it's now 3 straight wins for Utah, who is still definitely towards the bottom of the conference. But I don't think they're as bad as a lot of people expected them to be. And BYU falls to 2-4. And with a rough non-conference, their resume is not looking strong.
Yeah, the holy war on the hard floor is what I like to call it. This may be it was the best Big 12 game on Saturday. I don't think there's any question about that. Saunders led the way for BYU, but it wasn't enough for as the Utes won. Asar, as you mentioned, monster game, 26 points. He shot 50% from 3 and was 11 of 15 overall. A big game for him and a big, big win for the Utes here.
By the way, I'm buying my BYU stock right now. This doesn't have to be for this season, but just in general. I still think that's a program that will be a consistent top 4 or 5 program in the league for the next decade. The amount of resources that they're putting into NIL, the amount of resources, and honestly just the amount of resources that they have at BYU. Craig Smith is an NBA guy. I think he's a really good coach. It might not be paying off this year, but that's a team to be scared of in the future, in my opinion.
Anytime you buy stock into a team, I worry. I think you should probably call WealthCharter before you start buying stock into anywhere or anybody or anything. So I just want to throw that out there for a minute.
You're probably right. Shout out WealthCharter. Simplifying wealth. We'll close with this one. Colorado at Oklahoma State. Both teams squarely on the probably NIT bubble. 6 in a row for the Buffs, and not the good 6 in a row. Oklahoma State now 2-4, 2-1 at home. They kind of played Houston tight in the first half as well in Stillwater. Might be a tough place to play. And Tad Boyle, I think this has to be it for him. He's been there 15 years, and this program does not look like it's heading in the right direction.
Yeah, first of all, just yikes for Colorado. There's 50 feet of crap, and then there's Colorado basketball when it comes to the Big 12. 0-6 in Big 12 play, 9-8 overall. They were somewhat okay in the non-conference, but now that Big 12 action is here, they're nowhere to be found, which you can say the same thing come tournament time for this team. But it was a nice win for the Cowboys, but it was certainly expected. I'm by no means bought into Oklahoma State, and they have Tech and Arizona coming up, which is going to be really tough. I just wish Oklahoma State was good like they used to be, because it makes this conference just so much more fun and entertaining when Oklahoma State is really good.
Well, that does it for the Big 12 basketball talk, I think, for the day. It is so cold out in Des Moines right now. -4 when I woke up. The absolute last thing that you want would be a flat tire right now. I hope I'm not putting bad mojo into the world right now. It's never fun to change a flat tire. I can promise you it's less fun to do it when it's -4 out. The best way to ensure you don't get a flat tire is go and visit our friends at Freedom Tire, locations all over central Iowa, Ames, Altoona, West Des Moines, Urbandale. Quentin Kreiner and his team, they'll take care of you. They'll take care of your car. Again, it would be miserable being stuck on the side of the road right now. Honestly, it'd be unsafe. So make sure that you're stopping in at Freedom Tire to make sure that your car is prime for winter weather conditions. I'd also like to give a shout out to our friends at the Iowa Wild. They're in a huge homestand right now at Wells Fargo Arena. We've got a giveaway going on at iowaeverywhere.com for Saturday's game against the Texas Stars with a post-game concert from Dylan Scott. I can't believe that's a real guy. He almost looks AI generated. I should probably be mad. I mean that in a good way because he's a good-looking dude. If you want to go see Dylan Scott in the Wild play hockey at their country night, again, go to iowaeverywhere.com for the giveaway. They've also got games on, what day is the 22nd? That would be Wednesday, I think. They play the Charlotte Checkers on winning Wednesday. If the Wild win, you get 1 ticket for free for a future Wild game, and you'll get a free wings voucher from Pizza Hut. I could go for some chicken wings right now. I don't care that it's 9 in the morning. And then, again, after their Saturday game with the post-game concert, they'll play the Stars again on Sunday afternoon for Kids Takeover Day with a youth jersey giveaway, and kids can skate on the ice. You can go to iowaeverywhere.com for more details on the giveaway and get yourself into the lower bowl and maybe even onto the ice for the post-game concert. All right, Aiden. Trivia time.
All right, Derek. Iowa has one Division II school in the entire state.
Ooh, good question.
Can you name the school? Sorry.
Is it in all sports or just football here?
Across the board.
Oh, jeez.
I believe it is the only college town in America that doesn't have a high school in it.
That's very true.
I know it's not right. I keep wanting to say Northern Iowa, and I know it's not Northern Iowa, but I don't even think I'd have a guess. I'm trying to think of just all the colleges that I can think of in the state of Iowa, and I can't think of any outside of 5 or 6 here.
It's the Cox, the Upper Iowa Peacocks in Fayette, Iowa. And
Cock power.
So I can't remember what school district Fayette's a part of, but yeah, they're
North Fayette Valley.
North Fayette Valley, yeah,
in West Union.
The high school's not in Fayette, so they've got a college, but they're.
Give me a map. Where is this? Is it eastern, western, northern, southern?
So
northeast Iowa, right?
Yeah,
northeast.
It's definitely
Iowa,
northern because it's upper.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's closer to Aiden's part of the country than it is my part of the country.
I don't think I know anything about northeastern Iowa.
Yeah, so Iowa, of course, has the Big Four: Iowa State, UNI Drake.
Yep.
Tons of D3.
There we go.
You got 9 D3 schools, and then an abundance of NAIA schools. But Upper Iowa, they're the lone D2 school with not a ton of rivals within the state. Actually, pretty much none. Good question, Aiden.
That was great. Go Cox.
Should we talk Deion?
I think we have to at this point. It's getting the conversations are heating up. People are talking. National media's talking. I think we have to talk Deion here.
So where there's smoke, sometimes there could be fire, as the old saying goes. The Coach Prime to Dallas rumors have been constant ever since the Cowboys started the season poorly.
That's about right. Yeah.
How realistic is it that this could happen?
I think it's heating up for sure, and I think there's a good chance at this point. And Deion, before he got into coaching, Hall of Fame career in the NFL, played with the Niners, played with the Dallas Cowboys, where obviously that's where he got his relationship with Jerry Jones. And not just Jerry Jones, it's also been said that he has a relationship with that entire family there in Dallas. Deion for a long time lived in the Dallas-Fort Worth area too, so he's got plenty of ties still to that area just in general. Again, still with Jerry Jones, I think it's just a weird thing because people have different relationships, obviously, with Jerry now. And we saw a former player and coach with Jason Garrett under Jerry Jones. We know how that turned out there, where, let's just face it, Jason was just Jerry's puppet. And I don't want that to happen to Deion, but I also think Deion's the kind of guy that's going to stand up for himself and is willing to stand up to Jerry. I don't know if that's going to be true or not if he does do that, but he's capable at least of saying, no, Jerry, I'm going to handle it this way. And I think that's somebody, if you're going to take that job in Dallas, obviously you have to have somebody that's willing to put up with Jerry and his shenanigans, but you also have to try to establish yourself and do it your way. And I think that's been the biggest issue for that organization. But that's enough Cowboys talk for me. There's a real chance here for Deion to leave. Again, I think just with the ties he has there, and for me, he's proved it. And people are asking, why would he want that job? And I'm be honest with you here. Deion, to me, has nothing left to answer at the college level. He turned Jackson State around in 3 years. I think he won 2 conference championships there. 10-win seasons. I think he had 2 of them there in the second and third season there. And then just in 2 years in Colorado, he turns Colorado into a 9-win team. They haven't won, I think, more than 6 games or 5 games since 2016. Completely turns them around, brings all this talent in. I don't think Deion has any more questions left to answer at the college level. I think the next step is going to be going to the NFL for him. And again, and then now with his son, both of his sons are off now. They're not going to be in college anymore. I think that also plays a big part into his decision. So I think there's a really, really good chance he ends up as the next coach in Dallas.
So as our resident Cowboys fan, I just want to say that I'm sick of the Cowboys being an afterthought. I'm sick of us not getting the media coverage that we deserve. I'm sick of being disrespected by everybody. And Coach Prime to Dallas would fix all of that. Finally, the Cowboys would get talked about on ESPN. Finally, we'd be able to get some national TV games. It's horrible being a Cowboys fan living in Iowa because they're never on TV. I know that if Deion came to Dallas, we would be America's team again, baby. It would all come back. I'm surprised your camera's still on.
I don't think you guys understand just how much Dallas Cowboys crap. If I turn on the local radio,
I'm kidding.
It just doesn't matter where you are in the state of Texas. Probably even in Oklahoma for this case here. It's just Dallas Cowboys talk 24/7. I am so sick and tired of hearing it. They are the only fan base I know that thinks they're going to win a Super Bowl every year for the last 20 years. I think I've heard Super Bowl and Dallas Cowboys in the same sentence, and they disappoint every time. And I'm going to be honest with you here. Dallas is not going to win anything until Jerry Jones is 6 feet in the ground. That's the only way that's going to happen is Dallas is finally going to break that curse, because as long as Jerry's there, he's pulling all the strings. He wants a puppet as a head. He should just bring back Jason Garrett at this point, because that's what he wants to do. He wants to have full control of the team, the coaches, the players. Just hire a puppet. I don't know why you want Deion. I get it for the money value. He loves money. He loves being entertaining. So Deion would be great for that purpose. But I don't know if Deion's a guy that's going to be, that he can control.
Okay, real talk. I'm probably the most down-to-earth Cowboys fan that exists. I've never even said the word Super Bowl when it comes to the Cowboys. Now that the Commanders are in the NFC Championship, every NFC team Every single NFC team except the Cowboys have made an NFC championship since 1996, the Cowboys being the lone exception. They've been an embarrassment my entire life. I don't expect that to change as long as Jerry Jones owns the team. And if you give me my wish list, it looks like most teams. I would love, of course, Ryan Johnson. I would love, Ben Johnson. I would love Joe Brady, Liam Cohen. I just don't think any of those names are going to happen. Which is what brings me to Deion. Like you said, Deion, I do think would stand up to Jerry. They have a different relationship than I'm sure Jerry does with most former players, really with most people in the league. I think Deion would be more than a puppet, which is what I want. I want a real coach. And maybe calling Deion a real coach is a little disingenuous, but I don't want another Mike McCarthy. I don't want a guy who has been through a couple jobs. I don't want Pete Carroll. Please, not Pete Carroll. So instead of giving me a puppet that'll just be a repeat of Jason Garrett and Mike McCarthy and what we've seen the last 15 years, give me something different. I don't think Deion would win a Super Bowl with this current team that they have. I just don't think the Cowboys can win a Super Bowl when they have Dak Prescott. But at least give me entertaining. And that's my case for Deion. And it'd be really fun. It'd be really fun. I know everyone else in the country would hate it. I'd love it though.
Yeah, I have no sympathy for Dallas Cowboys fans or anything, so I really honestly could care less about what they do. I hope they suffer another century's worth. I hope they never make it to the NFC Championship game. I hope they never win another Super Bowl in my lifetime. I really do.
You can only bury America's team for so long. We're coming, and Prime is going to be the one to do it.
I think it's just different living down here where I live. It's nonstop. It's nonstop. At least you have like some kind of barrier all the way up in Iowa. Like you have a few states where it's kind of like, well, you got the Chiefs kind of in the middle. So there's a lot of different topics, but down here it's very, very much Cowboys country, unfortunately.
Should we jump into the random Big 12 player?
I think now would be a good time to do that. We need to change course. Way too much Cowboys talk for my liking here. You guys ready?
You can have fun with Mike McCarthy, Aiden.
Nope.
I wouldn't want to wish that upon anybody. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, Aiden. All right, random Big 12 basketball player. You guys ready?
Yep.
Let's do it.
All right. This guard received no D1 or D2 offers coming out of high school and ended up starting his college career at a junior college prior to his 3 seasons at a Big 12 school. In his final season, he led the team in scoring and was second in the Big 12 in scoring, averaging 17.7 points per game. He ended up as a second-team All-Big 12 selection in his final year, all while playing under a legendary Big 12 coach. I'll throw in he went undrafted, spent a short time in the G League before playing overseas.
Is the legendary coach still at the school?
No,
Okay.
he is not.
Legendary. All right.
I'm drawing a blank.
Does Frank Martin count as legendary? I'm kidding.
I don't think so. If it helps you guys, it's all happened within the last 5 or 6 years. So this player has been, he started his career pre-COVID and ended it afterwards. His final year was 2022. 21-22.
So a legendary coach that's done makes me want to say it's Lon Kruger.
I was thinking Bob Huggins.
Yeah, I was thinking either of those two guys. So
You're on the right track
if
there.
we're talking guards, JUCO guards,
It's still a current Big 12 school.
yeah. So it's got to be West Virginia.
Yeah.
Which, man, I'm kind of drawing a blank on that era of West Virginia basketball, but I know once it comes to me, I'll feel dumb.
His first name is kind of after like a cartoon character. A devil of sorts.
Taz Sherman.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
West Virginia guard Taz Sherman, 2019 to 2022 there.
Man,
in
I was
Morgantown.
thinking that he was even more recent than that.
Yeah, you get older, Aiden, the years start flying by. But yeah, that was it. I tried to make it a little bit tougher. I think this one went a lot better.
Tough, yeah. Those are some kind of bad West Virginia teams, which is weird to say under Bob Huggins, but
I figured the playing under a legendary Big 12 coach, and then when Aiden said not there anymore, I figured that would probably be one of the best hints of what team it was, and then the rest you guys can figure out.
Honestly, just because of how bad the Steve Prohm era was, I think my knowledge of Big 12 basketball players is better from 2013 than it would be 21.
That's fair to say. Everybody has their own kind of time periods that they're stuck in when it comes to certain sports, so I'm not going to fault you there.
All right. We'll close up with a national championship preview, and we'll make some quick basketball picks. Who do you want to win Monday night's national championship game?
This is like, for me at least, picking between Notre Dame and Ohio State, who do I want to win is like choosing which arm do I want to cut off. Because if there was a way that both teams could lose this game, I would be all for it. I guess I'm at the point where I'm just going to say Ohio State. Like, I want Ohio State to win, and not because I don't like Ryan Day. Let me just throw that out there to begin with. I also just don't like Notre Dame. I don't like anything they stand for. Those cowards will not join a conference. I have a big issue with that. Nothing against Marcus Freeman. I think he's a good head coach. Seems like a nice guy. Ryan Day, on the other hand, kind of seems like an asshole. A lot of people hate him. He doesn't beat Michigan, but it would be kind of funny for him to win a national championship here in a year where they lose 2 games and most importantly, they lose to Michigan. So I would love to see him win. Maybe I don't want to say love to see him, but I guess if I had to pick a team, it's going to be Ohio State here. But again, it's like, for me, it's choosing which arm do I want to cut off, because I did not want to see this national championship between either one of these two teams. And let me also say this real quick. I feel like the game in general is just not being talked about. I know the NFL has dominated this weekend. We still got games here on Sunday, but nobody, I feel like, is talking about this game the way they should be.
It's dragged out way, way, way too much. The FCS has a 32-team playoff. They played their national championship 2 weeks ago. It can be done. It doesn't need to go this long. And it doesn't make sense for it to go this long. It would make a lot more sense for the college football season to wrap up before the NFL playoffs start, just because we all know what's king in this country. I actually kind of like Notre Dame. I don't know what it is. I love the uniforms. I like the tradition. And I think the juxtaposition between Brian Kelly and Marcus Freeman has turned Notre Dame from one of the most hateable programs to, I think the most likable blue blood in the sport, for me at least. I don't know. I'm probably off base with that. Grew up with a lot of Notre Dame people, and I never thought they were that bad of fans, so I'll be rooting extremely hard for Notre Dame. I'll put it that way. But I don't think they're going to win. I think Ohio State wins. The only way they don't is if they approach this game like they did the Michigan game. And we all know what happened the last time Ohio State played Notre Dame. Lou Holtz said that Notre Dame wasn't physical, and all Ohio State tried to do was prove just how physical they were, which is what they did against Michigan. And they went up against Michigan's defensive line, which was really the only A part of their entire team, and it ended up biting them, and it about cost Ryan Day his job. If they get their weapons out in space like Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Ibuka, they won't lose this game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Ohio State is going to win this game. They're the more talented team. I think they're the better team. Notre Dame is playing well, but I do have the Buckeyes winning that game, and I would love to see Notre Dame lose, and then like Lou Holtz goes on an all-time rant, maybe on social media. I'm sorry. Every time he talks, I can't take him seriously at all. I just can't.
Let's say Ohio State loses. What, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely would it be for Ryan Day to get fired?
After this season, even if he loses the national championship, after this season, I don't think he's going to get fired. I don't know if has there ever been a head coach that's made a national championship appearance and then gets fired? Has that ever happened?
No, but I can't imagine it's happened.
No, I don't think it's going to happen. I think at this point he's already established himself a little bit more. Obviously, he still has plenty of work to do there. But if he wins a national championship there, he's bought himself at least another 2 years there, if not longer. But even if he doesn't win, he's coming back next year. Unless something crazy happens in the offseason, he's coming back.
I'd put it at like a 3, I think.
I'd say more like a 1 for me.
So he would lose the national championship as a 9.5-point favorite and lose to Michigan. And these are not rational folks we're dealing with here. We're dealing with Ohio State fans.
They're not rational?
No, they're not even close, which is why, logistically in my head, it should be a 0.5 out of 10.
Probably lower than that.
But with Ohio State, I just don't know. I can't even imagine what local radio would be like in Columbus on Tuesday if they lost this game. I would maybe even want to fly out there just to listen to it. It would be so incredible. But I don't think administration would actually pull the plug, even though the fan base might be 80-20 in favor of doing it if they lost.
Yeah, the fan base there is way different compared to, I think, what's going to actually happen with the administration there. So, yeah, I just don't see him getting fired. Like, he's bought himself a little bit of time. But, again, if he loses this game and then next year they kind of get off to like a rocky start and then they lose to Michigan again next year, then I think maybe that conversation kind of could be had. But at this point, I don't see it happening.
All righty, let's close out with some Big 12 basketball picks. Again, going off of Ken Palm spreads. It's a bad slate this week, like a really bad midweek slate. I had a tough time picking out 3 games. So we'll start with Texas Tech going on the road to Cincinnati. I think this is the best game of the week. Tuesday night, 6 o'clock, ESPN 2. Going off of Ken Palm, at this point, Tech is favored by 1 on the road. Where are you going to go?
I know Cincy just picked up a nice little win here, bounce back win for them. But Tech, I think, is just playing really good basketball right now. I think TJ Toppin's going to take over that game at some point. I like Tech on the road here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like Tech. They're just the better team. They're really complete. And it leaves the opportunity. You really just need one of Toppin or Williams to produce, and you can beat Cincinnati with what they've been getting out of their offense. Next up, UCF at Iowa State. Ken Palm has this around a 17-point game. I would set the line at 15.5. I know I wrote in the rundown a little higher, so we'll roll with 15.5. Tuesday night, 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus. I'm gonna take UCF. I think we get an inspired bounce back performance from Iowa State in front of a sold out crowd, but UCF they're going to be getting the line of a lower level Big 12 team. I just think they're a little bit higher than that lower tier. And I think they've got the pieces and the length to hang around in this game just long enough to make it somewhat interesting. Iowa State, of course, wins, but UCF's going to cover the 15.5.
I have no doubts about Iowa State winning, and I think at home especially that environment's going to be great. For me, it's just going to come down to what UCF team are you going to see. We talked about their inconsistencies earlier on the show, and I just don't know what team I'm going to get here on the road in Hilton. So Again, I think I'll take UCF. I'll roll the dice here, taking UCF to cover. But again, Iowa State probably still wins by double digits. And I'm also curious to see how UCF responds after a tough loss against Houston at home. So that's kind of also pretty interesting for me. But I'll take UCF there.
Wait a second. I'm changing my pick. I forgot my number one rule of Big 12 gambling. Always fade a team after they play Houston or Iowa State. I'll take Iowa State minus 15.5. That team is going to be worn out like
That's
no
fair.
other. Backdoor cover by Iowa State. I'm changing my pick. And then we'll go Arizona State at West Virginia. Tuesday tip at 8 o'clock on CBS Sports. The Mountaineers, as of right now, favored by around 6.5 over ASU, according to Ken Palm.
I don't think Arizona State is as bad as their record shows. I think they are capable of making this a game. However, West Virginia at home in that building, I got to go Mountaineers here. I think they're playing really well right now. They're starting to find their stride. Got some marquee wins as well already on the young season. So I'm going to take the Mountaineers to cover this one.
Arizona State has been in a lot of close games so far this season. They just lost by 7 to Cincinnati, 6 to UCF. They took Baylor to overtime. I think they'll be in this game, especially with West Virginia coming off of their win of the season in a highly emotional game. I don't have many doubts the Mountaineers win and pull it out, but I think ASU keeps it close enough to cover.
So we got some different opinions here.
And then after this, I need to go back and look what we picked last week so we can start tracking this again.
Don't. I had a rough week last week, so probably not the best idea, but yeah, that's fine. We can definitely keep track of that.
Alrighty, I think that's going to do it on this show on Bigger Than 12. Aiden, you got anything we need to add? We've got
Don't think so.
a big day here in Iowa everywhere. 2 guys on a rare Sunday show. Of course, tomorrow we'll have Overthinking,
Probably out
Murph
around
and
the time
Andy.
that you're listening to this.
Yeah, so listen to 2 guys. Tune into Overthinking, Murph and Andy Monday. CW Pod with Ross Peterson was great if you like conspiracy theories. But yeah, keep supporting all the shows at Iowa Everywhere. Keep supporting WealthCharter, Freedom Tire, Channel Seeds, all the great sponsors here at Iowa Everywhere. Be sure to follow, like, subscribe, and leave a review. This has been Bigger Than 12 on Iowa Everywhere.